That's why they asked me to come here today and talk to you about this thing called bullying. Now see, when I say the word bully, when your teacher says it, when your parents say it, for most of you in this room, something like this flashes through your mind. You think about a big guy chasing a little guy home from school, pushing him up against the locker, stealing his lunch money. That's what most of you think, because most of you have no idea what this thing really is. So it's my job, it's my responsibility to get everyone's perspective in here as close as possible before we come up with that solution. No better place to start, students, than in the world of education. So let's rip that dictionary back open. Let's look at the word bully, and when you do, here's what you see. It's Western Crossbow brain person who habitually intentionally bashes more weaker people. You got it? You got it? 4 things in this definition, students, educators. You have to know them all. In order for us to get a collective perspective that's the same or very similar at least, you have to know these 4 things. Habitually, intimidating, smaller, weaker, and here's the last one. And educators, this is almost exclusively for you. It happens on purpose. It's not an accident. Now, educators, you ever wonder why kids do everything they do? Like I see kids whispering in each other's ears here, and some kids are talking out loud. You ever wonder why kids do everything they do? Like they should have taught you this in teacher school years ago. I'm gonna clear this up for you. I'm gonna blow your mind. You ready for this? I'm gonna tell you why kids this age do almost everything they do. You ready? You're not gonna believe me when I tell you. I know you. No, I ain't gonna scare you. Ready? I'm gonna tell you why kids do everything they do. You ready? Because they feel like it. Oh, that's it. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. See, that's the part of their brain that's fully functional right now, right? It feels good to turn and whisper to your buddy. It feels good to say something out loud. So they do it. That's the part of their brain that's fully working. But what it also means is that my man here has got stuff going on at home, like with his parents, with his grandparents. It means that he's failing a class, he got cut from a sports team, whatever. And somebody gets in his way, he shoves them, he says something disrespectful or hurtful. He didn't bully anybody. He probably operated on his feelings like he's supposed to. Those are opportunities, educators, for us to help kids through those feelings, to learn, to grow as their brains grow. Not bullying, students. Bullying happens on purpose to hurt other people. It's habitually, over and over, intimidating smaller, weaker people, which means anything, and it happens on purpose. Bullying.
All right, students, we're back. Now, last class, you should have had a really good discussion on perspective and what perspective means to you individually. But now we're here to talk about this thing called bullying. That's why we were asked to come to your school. And I always start with the definition. It's a blustering, quarrelsome, overbearing person who habitually intentionally badgers smaller, weaker people. A blustering, quarrelsome, overbearing person who habitually intentionally badgers smaller, weaker people. There's 4 things that make up bullying that we need you to talk about. Number 1, and most importantly, the behavior is habitual, which means it happens over and over again. And that's why most kids don't really understand this thing called bullying, because of the habitual nature of it. Most kids have no idea what it's like to come to school over and over again and be intimidated or scared. And that's point number 2 to this thing called bullying. There has to be an element of fear or intimidation. Number 3, the person that gets bullied has to be smaller or weaker. Now, when I talk to kids about small or weaker, I tell them that it means anything. It really doesn't matter what it is. It might be that kid that's really good at sports. It might be that kid that's really smart. It might be that girl that's really pretty. So it doesn't really matter what it is. There's what I call big ticket items, kids that don't have a lot of money, kids whose parents are in prison. There's those things that are easy to make someone a target, but truly it could be anything based on someone's perspective. And then number 4, it happens on purpose. Bullying truly is intentional. There's a lot of things that kids do that are mean or scary or hurtful, right, Coach? Why don't you talk about things that may or may not be bullying?
I think of a few different things. I think of pranks. I think a one-off situation where someone makes a really bad decision that happens to hurt someone's feelings, whether it's in the hallway or the locker room or on the bus, in those shadows of the school places. I think prank isn't bullying. If it, you got to stick to that definition. And why is that important? I think to run around labeling everything bullying can be problematic. We don't want to label people bullies and throw that word around loosely, because it's a real serious thing. I think additionally, kids can sometimes be, or a lot of the time, are feelings based. So kids that are having a bad day, kids that get emotional, can do really mean, obnoxious, hateful, hurtful things. And that doesn't necessarily make them a bully either, just because the nature of being a kid means they're feelings based. So I think the idea here is, let's define this thing called bullying and start this perspective shift by really understanding what it is and what it isn't.
That's right. So what you're going to do is, in your circle today, you're going to talk about what your perspective is on this thing called bullying. Try and remember what your perspective was before the assembly, and then what it was after the assembly. And then really listen to what other people are saying in the circle. Talk about things that might make someone feel small or weaker. Talk about the habitual nature of this thing called bullying, and get into all those things that make something bullying or doesn't make something bullying. It's very important that we share that perspective, so that when you leave your class today, you'll be able to look at this thing just a little bit different. That's our goal here, Coach, for perspective and what bullying is and perhaps what it isn't.